All right, what's up, Dragon Brood? We're on day 4, I think, of previews. I always get lost in the middle, but either way, there's a bunch of cards today, so we're going to try to go fairly quick so this isn't a super long video. So let's go. All right, so for starters today, we have District Mascot. It's a green for a 0/0 creature, a dog mount that enters with a +1/+1. You can pay 1 and a green to remove 2 +1/+1 counters from this creature to destroy an artifact. Whenever this creature attacks while saddled, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Ah, man, I don't know about this one. Like, if I'm doing a saddle mount whatever deck that actually plays green, it's probably okay. The question, I guess, is do I want this in those regular green decks, right? It's a 1/1 for 1 that technically can get bigger and it saddles for 1, so attacks as a 2/2, which is mostly okay, but not stellar. But it does give you a way to destroy artifacts on a creature, which is kind of cool, but I don't know. I'm not sold on, like, this almost feels weird that it's a rare, which makes me think that it's better than I think it is. Haunt the Network. 3 black blue for a sorcery. Choose target opponent. Create 2 1/1 Thopter tokens with flying. Then the chosen player loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of artifacts you control. All right, so worst case scenario, this is you make 2 Thopters, your opponent loses 2, you gain 2 for 5 mana. I mean, as a sorcery, it's not bad. But if you are playing a lot of other vehicles or some other artifacts already, this does have a pretty big upside, because then it's like make 2 creatures, possibly drain them for like 5 or 6. And that's a pretty big impact, especially if you're able to play these back to back on consecutive turns. Not an insane card, but good enough that it will probably make a couple of decks. Back on Track. Funny name considering the set. 4 and a black, sorcery, return target creature or vehicle from your graveyard to the battlefield. Create a 1/1 colorless pilot creature token with this saddles or mounts, blah blah. Alright, here's the problem. We've recently gotten a lot of good reanimation spells, right, at 4 and 5 mana. Some that can copy the thing, some that deal more damage when your creature dies, like instant speed ones. We have all kinds of stuff now. Do I want that? Like, this is get your creature plus a 1/1 pilot for 5 mana, which is okay, right? But do I like that better than the other 5 mana options we have? And am I gonna replace Zombify with this? Like, probably not. So it's neat, and I guess maybe if I'm playing a black-based vehicle deck, it could be worth considering, but I'm not super excited about it. Tune Up. 3 and a white for a sorcery. Return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield. If it's a vehicle, it becomes an artifact creature. Interesting. I feel like we had a white card previously that did this, that just returns an artifact from the graveyard to the battlefield. However, now, if that thing you return is a vehicle, it becomes a creature. Which makes me wonder if this card could be part of some other strategy, where your plan is just fill your graveyard, get vehicles. Those vehicles are always creatures, right? As opposed to having to crew them. It's possible, but this card will probably see at least a little bit of play. Explosive Getaway. 3 and a red white, so 5 mana for a sorcery. Exile up to 1 target artifact or creature. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Explosive Getaway deals 4 damage to each creature. Okay, I was almost confused by this because it's a sorcery till I got to the last line. So basically, you're paying 5 mana to deal 4 to everything except the one thing you want to protect, and it just comes back at the end of turn. This is probably fine. Like, the problem with these type of cards ultimately is that we just have so many different board sweepers, right? We have some that deal 2 damage, we have some that deal 3 damage, we have some that exile things, we have some that you can choose how many things you want to kill or whatever. I don't know if this gets played just because of the glut of sweepers in Standard. Now, don't be wrong, it is cool to be able to protect one of your creatures, and I guess in some ways it could allow you to play this type of card in a creature or vehicle heavy deck, but we'll see. It doesn't feel like a fun rare to open, but maybe I'm wrong on this one. Stock Up. 2 colorless and a blue for a sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. Put 2 of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. We've had this before, like, and variations of it. Quality, not insane, just a useful mid-tier card to fill out your decks. Demonic Junker for a whole 7 mana, 6 and a black. Wow. For only a 4/3. This ability better be great when we get to it. It has affinity for artifacts. All right, well, that helps, so it could be cheaper. When this vehicle enters, for each player, destroy up to 1 target creature that player controls. If a creature you control was destroyed this way, put 2+1/+1 counters on this vehicle. So realistically, you're going to get to play this for, I don't know, let's say 4. You make it 3 cheaper, right? Then you get a 4/3 when it enters. Everybody loses a creature, including you. You can put counters on this, so now it's effectively a 6/5. I mean, maybe. Like, I don't know what to think about this card. Like, if it's easy for you to fill your board with artifacts, then, like, yeah, if you get to play this for 2 or 3 or whatever, then fantastic. But I think once you're north of paying, like, 4 or 5, it gets less and less exciting. So I don't know how I feel about this one. I'm not a big fan, but I will probably try to experiment with it at least a little bit early on. Perilous Snare. 2 and a white for an artifact that has Start Your Engine. When this artifact enters, exile target non-land permanent opponent controls until this artifact leaves the battlefield. Max speed, tap it, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature or vehicle you control, activate only as a sorcery. Now see, this is exactly the type of card we were talking about in a video a couple days ago about when and why can you play some of these cards that say Start Your Engines, right? Like, this is fine even if you don't ever get to the max speed, right? This is just a fine Oblivion Ring effectively, right? Or any of the other white enchantments, just exile a thing till it leaves. So then there's really no risk. It's just potential upside. Now, if I am playing something that cares about speed or whatever, then great. This is a removal of choice because it helps fuel our game plan. But yeah, if you get a card like this, it's just a good card, but it has extra upside that has to do with speed, yeah, then it probably makes the cut in your list. Nesting Bot. 1 for a 1/1. Also has Start Your Engines. It's an artifact. When this creature dies, create a 1/1 colorless servo, and max speed, this creature gets +1/+0. So at max speed, it just becomes a 2/1. Yeah, this is fine. I think if you're doing something that's white based and you're worried about speed, yeah, this is obviously a thing you'll play. But yeah, not bad. It's just kind of all right. Carrion Cruiser. 2 and a black for a 3/2 vehicle. When this enters, mill 2 cards, then return a creature or vehicle card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Or no, to your hand. Sorry, not to the battlefield. So this is an interesting thing, right? Because I feel like this is the 3rd card so far this set that I kind of went, oh, this could be a thing for Insidious Root stacks, right? You mill yourself, you get to remove something from the graveyard, and you just have a cool creature sitting around later. So yeah, I don't have a problem with this. I think it's playable. It's fine. It's only an uncommon, so it doesn't have to be insane. But yeah, it's useful in the decks that will absolutely want it. Roadside Blowout. 2 and a blue, so 3 mana. This spell costs 2 less if 2 less to cast if it targets a permanent with mana value 1. Okay. Return target creature or vehicle an opponent controls to its owner's hand. Draw a card. I expect a lot of times you're just still going to be paying 3 for this. And it is a sorcery. Draws a card. It's alright. I think, again, we have so many bounce spells, especially since we had Unsummon reprinted as well. This is just less exciting. Alright, I'm mentioning this even though it's a common for a reason. But Brightfield Glider. 1 white. So it's a white mana for 1/1. Possum Mount Vigilance. When this creature attacks while saddled, it gets +1/+2 in flying until end of turn. I might remember to edit here, but this is just a flying squirrel. Like, why are we calling it a possum? Like, this isn't what a possum looks like. Anybody seen a possum or an opossum, as you want to call them? They got like a long snout and they're kind of skinny and they have big, thin, rat-like tails. Like, this is a flying squirrel. I don't care what you want to call it. Like, it's totally a squirrel. It has a squirrel face. Like, it has the flying squirrel wings. And not to insult the artist. I don't know what the brief was. They might have done it exactly right. But at some point, somebody at WotC, even when putting this on the thing, said, like, hey, why don't we change the possum to a squirrel so it makes more sense? I don't know. They're just weird because I was like, oh, sweet, a possum. And then I went, it's not a possum. Not at all. This is definitely a flying squirrel. Anyway, done with the rant. Next card. Mu Yan Ling, Wind Rider. Hadn't seen this character in a while. 2 blue blue, so 4 mana. Human Wizard Pilot Legend. It's a 2/4. When this creature enters, create a 3/2 colorless vehicle artifact token with crew 1. Alright, well that's cool. You get a second creature. Vehicles you control have flying. Awesome. When one or more creatures you control with flying deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. Whew, there's a lot to dissect here. Alright, so it's 4 mana for a 2/4, and you get a 3/2. So you're getting, what's that? A 5/6 worth of power for 4 mana, which is pretty good. However, the 3/2 is a vehicle, and it does fly. All your other vehicles fly as well, which makes them easy to get across the finish line. The last ability, though, your creatures deal damage, you get to draw a card. It's basically like the, what was that thing? The 4/3, the Enduring Curiosity, right? It's kind of like that, but different in the sense that it's not an enchantment, so it can't be killed by that stuff. But when it dies, it doesn't come back to the battlefield. But it is a 4 toughness instead of 3, and it gives other things flying, which is kind of good. So yeah, I think it's gonna be really easy to compare this to Enduring Curiosity. I don't know, like, what I'm thinking about is if I'm playing a vehicles deck, would I rather have Mu Yan Ling or would I rather have Enduring Curiosity? And I don't know if I know that answer yet. I'm gonna have to play with it a bit before I make that decision. Glory Heath Links, 1 and a white, so 2 mana for a 2/3 lifelink cat mount. When this creature attacks while saddled, search your library for a basic plains card, reveal it, put it in your hand. Saddle for 2. This card's good. Like, seriously, even if it didn't have the, like, go search for a plains thing, like, it's a 2 mana 2/3, right? Straight up with lifelink. So it's already a decent card for 2 mana. And then if you do attack with it, you just get to go search for plains and keep finding more mana every turn. Like, I dig it. I think this card's actually pretty sweet. And in a world we're worried about mono red and stuff, having another lifelinker is never bad. So yeah, I'm here for it. This is kind of cool. Wickerfolk Indomitable. 3 and a black, so 4 mana for a 4/3 Scarecrow to add to our Scarecrow collection over time. You may cast this card from your graveyard by paying 2 life and sacrificing an artifact or creature in addition to paying its other costs. Ooh, now this card's kind of interesting, right? Do you mill yourself, put this in the graveyard, and now you can, like, sacrifice anything else and pay 2 life, and boom, you get this for free? Like, that's cool. Really weird and different, but also going to be annoying to keep off the battlefield. So yeah, I'm into this. This is kind of a cool card. Canyon Vaulter. 1 and a white, so 2 mana for a 3/1 pilot. When this creature saddles or mounts or crews vehicles during your main phase, that mount or vehicle gains flying until end of turn. Ooh. I was about to say not that excited by this card, but maybe. I think the problem this card's going to have is that if you are playing the vehicle mounts deck, there are already some that are 2 mana that are good, and there's the new pilots that are like 2 mana 2/3s that do stuff. So while giving a vehicle or mount flying is good, and maybe this could still be worth it, I'm not sure how many spaces there will be in those lists for this type of card. Now, if you're on the budget option, absolutely go for it. Cursecloth Wrappings. 2 black, 4 mana for a artifact. Zombies you control get +1/+1. Tap it. Target creature card in your graveyard gains embalm until end of turn. The embalm cost is equal to its mana cost. So basically, you pay the cost, end up getting I think it's a 4/4 zombie copy, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, it's just a copy of it as a zombie instead. Probably good. Like, I won't say good. I will say playable, right? If you're already putting stuff in the graveyard, if you have a zombie deck already, this is another way to just give your zombies +1/+1. And now they have to get rid of this or exile your zombies because then you just keep getting them back. So any zombies that give you extra value are going to be good. Yeah, I don't think we see a lot of zombie decks right now, but this is one more part toward making them a regular thing. Ether Siphon. 1 blue, so 3 mana for an artifact. Start your engines. You can pay 2 and tap it to draw a card. Max speed, whenever you draw a card, each opponent mills 2 cards. You know what? Even if you never move your speed, this card is just always pay 2, draw a card at instant speed, right? If you're playing like a control deck and you didn't need to counter anything or whatever during their turn, you're like, cool, spend my mana, draw a card. Like, this might genuinely get played in some decks as a 2 of or something, where they don't even care about their speed at all. Unswerving Sloth. Now, why do we have a sloth in our race? But, funny. 3 white white, so 5 mana 5/5. Whenever this creature attacks while it's saddled, it gains indestructible in a turn. Untap all creatures you control. Saddle for 4. That is a big ability, right? That you get to untap everything. I guess including itself? Yeah, it doesn't say other creatures, it just says untap all creatures. Maybe there's some use for this. Like, I don't know. I mean, we do have a lot of cards a set that are going to be like tap to do this thing, exert to do whatever, or exhaust, I guess. Right? Like, so maybe it's a thing? I don't know. 5 is a lot, though, to be honest. 5 is a lot, which makes me think for 60 card Magic, you're probably not playing this. Because while we do play other 5 mana things, those 5 mana things are hugely impactful on their own. And that makes a big difference once you're spending that much mana. So now I have a question for you. Are you looking forward to building more of a vehicles deck, a mounts deck, or a general artifacts deck? Or somewhere in between? Because we have cards that are going to support all 3 of those things in this set. And I'm kind of curious what y'all are thinking. Otherwise, if you missed yesterday's video, I'm going to link it here so you can check that out. But otherwise, that's all of you for now. We'll see you next time.